This is going to be the second AutoCAD drawing lesson for orthographic drawing problems. Today we're looking at the carrier frame. So let's take a quick look at the drawing that's found in the submodule for this. We have some new terminology on this drawing. It says tip in some spots, which is short for typical. So that means that instead of duplicating this dimension over and over again for every item, when we see typical, we mean that sizes and features on the drawing that obviously look identical are the same. So another example is this rear vertical flange, 10 typical. It's assumed that the bottom base thickness is the same, as well as these 4 10 diameter circles, and as well as this 11.5 radius that's found in 4 different places. To begin, I'm going to start with the front view. I'm going to be starting with a line, selecting this endpoint, traveling vertically 45.5 millimeters, coming over horizontally 118, and coming down using an O track, and then coming around and hitting C enter to close this off. Now there is a center box or cube structure in the center of the carrier frame. It also encases a semi-cylinder with a rectangular key passing through it. So I'm going to start with that first. So I'm going to find the middle of this rectangle. So I'm going to get a line, find the midpoint snap, and click from top to bottom. It shows that cube structure as 64 millimeters wide. So we need to offset and key in 32, which is half of that. Enter, and click to the left and click to the right to find where it begins and where it ends. We're also going to show that semi-cylinder that passes through the middle. So we're going to use a circle, but make sure we're selecting center radius because that semi-circle is dimensioned as R. R stands for radius. So we're using center radius, finding that endpoint, keying in the radius value of 25, hitting enter. And I'm going to leave that just like that for now. I'm not going to trim it off quite yet. That bottom base is 10 millimeters. That's from a typical dimension. Select offset, type in 10, enter. Pick this line, click above. Right click, left click, enter. We also have a keyway that's rectangular that sits in this section of that semi-cylinder. It's dimensioned as 3.5 millimeters per side. So this line here, I'm not going to erase. I'm going to use it to help me build my rectangular key and then plus turn this line into a center line later. So we're going to pick offset, type in the value of 3.5, which is for both sides. Click this line to the left and click this line to the right. Right click, left click, enter. Now, the keyway is dimensioned from the very top surface of the carrier frame to the bottom of the key. It is showing as 28.5 on the iPad image. So I'm going to offset, key in 28.5, enter, offset this line below. So now we're at the point where we have quite a lot going on. So now would be a good time to do some trimming. So we'll do it kind of piece by piece. We're going to select trim. We're going to select this top line here as our boundary. Right click, left click the top of that circle away. right click, left click, repeat trim. Again, we can select this semicircle as our boundary, right click, left click, that top surface line away. We're also going to have to turn this line into a center line because that represents symmetry in our carrier frame drawing. And we're also going to trim this line and this line and this line. Right click, left click, repeat again. These arcs are boundaries to trim off this line and this line. Notice how as I do this, I'm commentating less about how to activate and deactivate commands, because I feel by this time you should start to be getting used to how to right click and repeat a command or re-enter similar information. So we're going to select this line as a boundary, right click, left click, left click. Okay, so we have that taken care of. We also need to adjust these lines. These lines should not be here. So we're going to do another trim, boundary, right click, left click, left click. All right. So what's missing on this front view? We still need to show the radiuses here. So let's work on that next. We're going to select fillet. The value is 11.5. Enter. Select that horizontal line and vertical line and right click, left click, repeat. And this side as well. Now, the image that you're working from in the hub, it lists the holes as 10 millimeters in diameter, except it doesn't give you a location on X or Y on the sheet as to where they're to be positioned. So we assume that the center of those circles share the same center point as these radiuses. So what we can do is grab center diameter circle again, and I'm going to come in here and just touch that fillet, not going to click anything, and it's going to reveal this plus sign. This is going to allow me to snap to a center to be able to draw that 10 millimeters. And there's my circle. Because there's a hole here, 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 and here, we also assume that because they all share the same radius center point, that the hole that would be shown here in hidden detail is directly in line with this one that's visible in object view. So what we can do is grab our line tool, snap the quadrant, come down to perpendicular, right click, left click, repeat, do the same thing on this side, and then trim this off at that boundary. Select these two lines, make them hidden lines. Get another line, start at this quadrant, go from one side to the other. This is going to be represented as a center line, and we're going to have to use a grip and extend it 6 millimeters per side beyond that circle. Same thing here. From this quadrant, now we're not going to stop the center line here. We're going to extend it all the way down to the bottom of the base. And the reason we're doing that is because that's going to let the person in the shop who's building this part know that this drilled hole and this drilled hole are directly in line with one another. The center point will tell that story to the person in the shop. So we're going to extend this 6 millimeters up, and from here 6 millimeters down. We know that we'd have to have a center line anyway, vertically running through this hole and this hole that's hidden, but it doesn't make sense to keep them separate. It makes sense to keep it all as one, flowing from one item to the next, again to show that they're in line with one another. If this hole here was slightly off to the right and it was not in line with this circle, yes, we would cut that center line off and have a separate one for this hole. Make sense? Yes. Now, why am I going to redraw this all over here? I don't need to. So I might as well use a mirror. So select mirror, select these objects. So everything you see here, hit enter or right click your mouse. Find a midpoint to mirror from, making sure ortho is on, of course, which it should be. And move your mouse till you get the preview you like. So I'm going to click this endpoint as my second point to activate and finish the mirror. It says erase source object, yes or no. We're going to want to go no because we want to keep this information that I originally drew. And the last thing that we have to do with this is extend this center line 6 millimeters more in the middle and extend it 6 millimeters up vertically above. And this should complete I'm having another problem escaping from my my commands. We talked about this. I can't hit escape key. That's the drawback of recording a video. But anyway, that's our front view done. Next, we're going to work on the top view. So we're going to go line, start in the origin in our usual spot. We always select that bottom left-hand corner endpoint. We're traveling 56 millimeters. We're going to use an O track. I'm going to touch the end of the part, which is going to give me 118. Whoops. Careful here. You don't want to pick up this end of the center line. You want to pick up the end of the part. You could key it in. It should read 118 if you're using an O track. So be aware of that. Left click, come down, click the origin again. It should give you 56. Click, come back, C, enter. So what we're going to do is we're going to help use the front view to help us build our top view. So we're going to click line, select this endpoint, come up to this perpendicular, right click, left click, repeat. Do the same thing on this side. And we're also going to offset the rear vertical flange, which is a value of 10 millimeters. Bring that forward. And what we can do is, again, just use a grip and bring this line and this line forward because that cube structure in the center doesn't sit beyond that rear vertical flange. Next, we can trim away or grip these two lines. And we can also draw a line from here to this perpendicular, from here to this one, and from here, where the keyway is, and from the other side. Because all of this will be clearly visible to us when we look down on it from the top. And one thing I've almost made a mistake here. These lines have to travel all the way to the back. The keyway and the semicircle, or semi-cylinder as I should say. This is going to trim off here. and this line is going to come back to here. And then we can trim off the front. And this looks like that. Now we also need a center line running through the middle for symmetry. Select center line and use a grip. Extend it 6 millimeters each way. Next up, we also have to work on our fillets that are seen on the base. So we're going to use another fillet tool, and we're going to select radius from the command line, and it already says 11.5, so it remembers my input from earlier. So I can just hit the enter key or right click and then left click this vertical line and this horizontal line, which will reveal my origin, but that's okay because it doesn't bother us. So we'll right click, left click, repeat fillet, do the same thing on the other side. Now, in terms of finishing these drilled holes on the top view, again, I can just, because these holes are all in line with one another, I can select these two and these two, a group of 4, select copy from the origin on the front view and copy them to this endpoint on the top view. And that's going to give me those holes in the correct position. I can also do the same thing with my holes here. I can select these 3 items. I can copy from that midpoint snap, come up here, touch that fillet, find that center snap, and drop it in. And then all I have to do here is just bring this center line up to perpendicular, bring this one to the quadrant of the circle, and then do another grip edit. Extend this up 6 millimeters here. And then I can just mirror this. So I'm going to select the mirror. Bear with me for a second. Select mirror. Pick 1, 2, 3, enter, specify midpoint, get the preview I like. I'm going to click somewhere else on the screen where I like my preview, erase source, no, enter. Now, this isn't completely finished yet. This structure, this cube structure in the middle, it doesn't reach all the way to the front face of the base, so it has to be trimmed up. So it shows on the iPad image I'm looking at, it's 7.5 from the front. So we're going to click offset, key in 7.5, hit enter, and offset this line back, and then we're going to be doing some trimming. So we're going to select these objects, right click, and just go around like this and trim that up. Hit enter. Okay, so let's take one last look at this view. I think everything looks good. Center lines are there. They're gripped appropriately. We have the central symmetrical center line. Everything looks fine. So we have one view left. We're going to be looking at the right side view. So again, line command. Start at the origin, traveling horizontally to the right. 56 is what we key in. We're traveling vertically. We're going to use an O track. This should give us a height of 45.5 millimeters. coming back. O track to the origin, 56. And then C enter to close. Next, I would work on showing the base thickness and the vertical flange thickness, which both share a value of 10. So we'll hit offset, type in 10, enter. Select this vertical line, click to the left. This horizontal line, click above. And then we're going to just trim this or use a grip. So we'll come back like this. And we have it shown. Again, this structure here, the cube structure, has to be adjusted 7.5 millimeters back like we did on the top view. So we're going to do another offset, 7.5, enter. Select this line, click to the right. And again, we're going to take this, we're going to grip it to that endpoint. This one to this endpoint, and this one up to perpendicular snap. Now we've got some hidden lines that have to be shown here. So we have the semi-cylinder. The bottom of it plus the bottom of the key has to be projected over. So we're going to hit line. We can select this endpoint right here and draw a line over. It's going to pass all the way through to the back. Right click, left click, repeat line. We're going to do the same thing with the bottom of the key. The rectangular key, we're going to draw a line all the way back to this perpendicular. We're going to trim it off. Boundary, left click, left click. Select these two lines, put them on the hidden layer. All right, so what do we have left to do now? We've got to show these drilled holes. So let's work on this one first. So what we can do, draw a line from this quadrant, come over to perpendicular. And what I could do is I could copy this one from here to here, which is something I've never done before in a lesson, but I might as well try to keep going faster as we go. Trim off. Hidden. And a center line. Six. Bring this back to this perpendicular snap. Come out 6 millimeters. Place that on a center line layer. Now, where the center line in relation to these holes sits to the end of the part, it should be the same everywhere. So if I was to measure this from here to here, I get 11.5. Right? I should get the same thing if I check from here to here. And I do. So what I can do now is offset this line 11.5. To the right. And I can take this and this, our hidden lines here, copy them from the center line intersection at the base and copy them over and use this offset line as a reference point to snap to. And then all I have to do is grip this 6 millimeters each direction, put that on a center line, and that should be it from a drawing and center line perspective. So that is what that carrier frame looks like, with a couple extra tricks in there to kind of help you along the way. Remember, if you get tired of dragging features from one view to the next over and over, you could do it once and then you could just copy that feature as you go. It might be a faster way to do things if you're getting bored by just dragging lines all the time. So that's something you can think about. And then the last thing we need to do with this for now is fill the title block in. So this one is all capitals, the carrier frame, drawn by me, checked. J Valence, make sure that your drawing checker is checking your work, please. September, today is the 23rd, the second day of fall. Scale is 1 to 1. And the drawing number is 201. 2. O is in open, 1 is in single credit, dash 05. This is our 5th drawing. Yes, it is. All right. So after you've completed this, save it for now. Do not print or submit quite yet. And the next lesson we're going to look at is the column support, which is the last drawing in the orthographic projection drawing package. So, good luck with this, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.